After 2 days of attack and counterattack, Robert E. Lee is about to launch the offensive that will decide the Battle of Gettysburg and the course of the war. He's sending in 12,000 soldiers anchored by George Pickett's division, his only fresh troops. Their mission, attack the Union center and cut the Army of the Potomac in two.
Lee's pushing all of the chips to the middle of the table because he knows it's his last chance he's going to have.
This was a calculated decision. It was well thought out. It had a reasonable chance of success.
Leading one of the rebel brigades, General Joe Davis, aristocrat, slave owner, his uncle, Confederate President Jefferson Davis. His hometown of Vicksburg, Mississippi, is under Union siege. To weaken Union defenses, 160 Confederate cannons move into position, a line of artillery 2 miles long. Against them, 100 Union cannons. It's 87 degrees, brutally humid. It's the largest artillery barrage ever in the Western Hemisphere.
Would shake the internals. The organs would actually, in some cases, rip apart. The membranes within the ear would tear. This would create blood streaming down the sides of these artillery units' faces.
Barrage can be heard in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 40 miles away. To lure Lee into thinking he's crippled the Union's artillery, Union commanders silence their guns. By 3 p.m., Confederate artillery also stops firing.
An eerie quiet reigned over the battlefield. All the smoke from that bombardment still sat on the windless day. The Yankees expected a huge attack from the Southerners. The Southerners knew what they were about to do and what they went up against, and it must have been an intense moment as they stared each other across the fields.
The Confederate command believes it's safe to send in their troops. Time to set in motion one of the iconic battles of the Civil War. Joe Davis and his men move out. Part of a rebel assault that stretches a mile. Union lines, they must cross 1,700 yards of open meadow, then race up a hill. But unknown to the Confederate leaders, the Union artillery still has plenty of firepower. They're just waiting for the rebels to come into range. Joe Davis and his men are marching into a barrage of artillery hell. ordnance rifle cannon, made with 4.5-inch strips of wrought iron. Invented just 2 years earlier, they're tough and reliable, designed with a 3-inch groove bore for greater range and deadly accuracy. The ordnance delivers shells that explode on impact. And time shells and shrapnel that burst in the air over the enemy's heads. One shot can take out 10 men.
Being on the receiving end of one of these projectiles from the rifled ordnance would be completely devastating. You don't know what's coming at you. You can only imagine. And then all of a sudden, the guys that you are standing next to are gone. Vaporized.
Stopping to return fire in an open field is suicide. And there's no point. Their muskets don't have the range. Davis knows his men have to keep moving.
We were growing thinner at every step. Under this destructive fire, which commanded our front and left with fatal effect. The troops displayed great coolness. Were well in hand and moved steadily forward, regularly closing up the gaps made in their ranks.
About halfway to Cemetery Ridge, the rebels come into range of the older-style smooth-barreled Napoleon cannon. The most popular artillery in the Civil War. It fires 4 kinds of ammunition, including solid 12-pound cannonballs. Balanced in front of advancing troops, they can mow down a whole row of men like bowling balls.
It's hard to conceive how men could keep going in the face of such opposition. The level of courage is intense and large.
Joe Davis and his men are now 400 yards from the Union guns. Canister range. Canister is the most devastating weapon of the day. Basically tin cans packed with 28 iron balls. The casing explodes, spraying the iron balls into advancing troops at hundreds of yards per second.
Canister shot just made that cannon a gigantic shotgun, and it would mow down up to 20 guys at a time, if not more. Guys would be completely tore apart. Limbs, heads, arms, legs, and it was so demoralizing for the other soldiers to witness such an event.
Davis regroups at a dirt road, the Emmetsburg Road, 200 yards from the Union line. They're now within range of enemy muskets. One fence they're using for cover takes 836 rifle shots. The brigade to the left of Davis hasn't caught up, exposing his flank and opening a hole in the rebel line. A few men under Davis make it to the Union line and plant their flag on a stone wall. A brave but futile gesture. The rest of the unit under Davis cracks and retreats. At a bend in the Union line, rebel troops under George Pickett managed to break through and surge over the wall. Union gunners fire point blank.
Now it's to the point of hand-to-hand combat. This is as brutal as it gets. It is literally with musket butts and using fighting knives, using the bayonets by themselves as thrusting weapons.
The rebels overrun 3 cannons, but they're soon overwhelmed. It's Lee's last chance for victory at Gettysburg, but it's not enough.
They almost cut the Union Army in two. They almost did it. Robert E. Lee's great moment of promise quickly turned into his greatest defeat by far.
The entire rebel line retreats.
They are compelled, forced to retire across that very ground in which they had made this brave, gallant charge.
More than half of the force that began Pickett's charge is dead, wounded, captured, or missing. Lee loses a third of his army at Gettysburg. It's the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. More than 50,000 casualties. Robert E. Lee's bold invasion of the North has failed.